My name is Cissie King Jones. For 5 years, I was a member of the team Young Justice as the vigilante Arrowette until it was rebooted as a television show and everyone started calling me Artemis. And your geek history lesson on Arrowette is now in session. Hello and welcome to Geek History Lesson. I'm Ashley Victoria Robinson.
And I am Jason Quiver Inman. Welcome to your Mind University, because this podcast, Geek History Lesson, that you are now listening to, is what we call the Mind University, a place where you can learn about your favorite character, team, or construct in a little bit less than an hour. And we are your lovely professors. Welcome inside. Lucky you don't have any homework, right? Good class.
Yes.
Ashley, who are we talking about today?
Today we're talking about Arrowette.
Arrowette?
Arrowette.
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 Arrowette, gentille Alouette.
Oh, I like that. Okay, cool. Who is this exactly?
She's a green arrow sidekick. Kind of. I'm going to tell you who she is. She's a founding member of Young Justice.
Okay, cool. There you go.
Probably most people know her from. She was requested. We do have a few TAs on this episode, including Nicholas J. Adams, Garib Hunter, and at @NikkiClough_books. So thank you so much for requesting Arrowette.
Yeah, and don't forget, if you're listening to this podcast and you would like us to do a geek history lesson on a certain character, team, or even television show, if you'd like, 90s cartoon, Goof Troop, throwing that out there, you can request that at GHL Podcast on Twitter or on Facebook at facebook.com/Geek History Lesson.
That's right.
That is correct. Those are the only two places we check for requests. So if you email us somewhere else, we're not going to see it. It will go into the cataclysm of forgotten characters, which I think is what you could call Arrowette now.
Unfortunately, perhaps.
Yeah. All right. Let's move into the first section of the podcast, the 10-cent origin. That is where Professor Ashley, the teacher of this lesson, is going to give you everything you need to know, the Cliff Notes version, everything you need to know about Arrowette in case you go to a fancy schmancy cocktail party in the middle of Titan's Tower and Dick Grayson goes, "Hey, this Arrowette girl, you know her?"
Well, she was never a Titan, so she wouldn't be in Titan's Tower.
Oh, she will be at this cocktail party.
So, Suzanne Cissie King Jones is a DC Comics character. She is the second Arrowette and the daughter of the original Arrowette, who is Bonnie King, her mother. She was created by Tom Payer and Craig Russo, and her first appearance was in Impulse number 28 in August of 1997. Her team affiliations include Young Justice, as well as partnerships with Oliver Queen and Roy Harper, and her abilities include Olympic-level archery skills, highly skilled martial artist, and she is voiced by Stephanie Lamellin on the Young Justice cartoon. Even
although in Young Justice she's Artemis.
Artemis, and she's not the same character at all. But we'll talk a little bit about that later.
Okay, cool.
Yes, and what do we do next, Jason?
We go into the Meet Cute.
What's that?
That's a section where we stole this term from romantic comedies. We're going to tell you how we first meeted and cuted this character in comic books. Ashley, I suspect I know the answer to this. Batman the Animated Series. Where did you first meet and cute Arrowette?
For new listeners, that's because most of my DC characters I first met in Batman the Animated Series. No, I read a lot of good 90s comics, and I read a lot of good early aughts comics. So I was pretty familiar with Arrowette from Young Justice. I think I read her there
the comic book
first.
Series.
Yes. Before she showed up. Before I got around to reading the Impulse series, where she actually makes her first debut. And I will say that I was pretty bummed that she kind of makes an exit from comics right before the beginning of the Jeff Johns Teen Titans reboot that comes in the mid-aughts, and we talk about a lot on this podcast, because I think she would have been a real addition to the team. But yes, I first met her in her probably most well-known role as a original Young Justice member. Now, Jason, same question to you. Where did you first meet Cissie?
Well, back in the 90s, Ashley. See, a young boy in Kansas, as I was, I didn't have access to many comic book shops, but I did have access to Walmarts. And in those Walmarts, I had access to a little old magazine called Wizard Magazine, which we talk about on this podcast a lot. The fabled texts of Wizard Magazine. And Wizard Magazine, by the way, is the whole reason I even know about Young Justice. Wizard Magazine highly recommended the original run of Young Justice, Peter David and Todd Nux. Excellent run. And I remember a specific article talking about like why you should read Young Justice, and they explain all the characters, and Arrowette was one of those characters. And that is the first time I remember having any idea who she was.
That's awesome. And Jason mentioned getting comics from Walmart. You can also now, in a full circle move, get comics written by Jason and I. You can order them through Walmart.
You can go to walmart.com.
Yeah, including Jupiter Jet and including Science Elements of Dark Energy and including Super Soldiers. But
Wait a minute. Hold on. Ashley.
Yes.
Are you saying that you and I are published writers?
I am.
This is the first I'm hearing of it.
But if you are not proximate to a Walmart or you don't feel like shopping there, you can actually get even better versions because they're signed and personalized.
Yeah, we can personalize them to anybody, even
That's
grandma.
True. If you go personalize them to your cat, if you go to jasoninman.com/store, we have all the titles that I mentioned there. We have book plates there. We have all kinds of really cool stuff that we're really, really proud of that hopefully you might consider reading and chatting about on your podcast. And it's the most, if you want to buy our work in a way that most directly affects Jason and I as creators, through the website is the best way that you can do it. Plus, we are known, if you peep around Twitter, for sending a whole bunch of extra swag along with it.
Yeah, we put extra stuff in our boxes all of the time. We'll give you like little surprises. You'll probably get an art print that you weren't expecting if you order a book. But I just want to say, too, if you guys like this podcast, because there are thousands of people that listen to Geek History Lesson, thousands of people.
Can you imagine?
I see
just us screaming in our room together.
Yep. I see the analytics. So I know there are thousands of people that are listening to Geek History Lesson. But I know that thousands of people are not reading our books. So I'm just throwing it out there. You know, if you ever thought about it, if you like this podcast, I guarantee you're going to like, and there's a little bit of everything. Jupiter Jet's for the younger kids, Science is for the middle grade,
grades,
and then Super Soldiers is for
the more refined readers, our more mature readers.
Your dad.
Or your mom.
Oh, yeah. I've had a lot of moms say they like Super Soldiers. So there you go. jasoninman.com/store. Now back to the lesson of Arrowette. I think we're into the History 101, which is the...
We are.
Which, listeners, if you don't know about that, if you're eating a sandwich, the main meat, the meat that makes you buy that sandwich...
Someone is screaming into their phone that they're a vegan right now. I hope you know that. It's probably our good friend and listener, Lisa Lee.
The main cheese.
Not vegan.
The main fake cheese that you have in your mac and cheese. That's where we're at right now.
The main cashew cheese.
The main ingredient. The main cashew of your vegan mac and cheese. That's where we're at right now. History 101. Ashley's going to take us off like a arrow straight to the bullseye. She's pulling back the string. We know the fade out as being pulled taut. And then she's going to let it go. Do you know what that is?
It's the moment where you have to let go of your arrow.
No, it's the bottom of the bow.
Oh, that's right. Yes. We know that because of the Arrow television shows. That's right. Big props to Jason. Big improv points to Jason for running with the 2 no's that I gave him on his intro and still making it work. That's why we keep you around.
All right.
So, History 101. Bonnie King. Remember the OG Arrowette? The Arrowette that we like, her mom?
No.
Well, she aged up and she was like too old to be a cute teen superhero. And so she basically got pregnant right away and hoped to have a daughter to carry on her legacy and become the new Arrowette.
So she's Sally Jupiter.
Yes.
She's like from Watchmen.
Insane state. So that's a perfect comparison, except I think she even smokes. So
Sally Jupiter's the mom too, right? Like they're both called Sally Jupiters. Am I correct about that from Watchmen, or am I wrong?
You know, Jason, I tried to delete Watchmen from my brain right after we talked about it.
Fair enough. Let's move on.
So they're both called Silk Spectre.
Silk Spectre, that's what it is. Yeah, Sally.
I don't think
Sally Jupiter it's Lori Jupiter and Sally Jupiter.
Yeah, so Sally's the mom. So yes, you were right, like Sally Jupiter.
Cool.
Sorry to everyone who was yelling into their phone. So she basically becomes an insane stage mother right away. She insists that Cissie not follow in her steps being an amazing athlete, but a superhero as well, because Bonnie King was an Olympic archer and that led her to be a superhero. And from the beginning, she wants her daughter to do both. Even if you read the OG Young Justice series, there's whole scenes where she's talking about we need to take publicity photos, and Arrowette needs to be in the front, and they want to merchandise us for dolls, and Arrowette has to be the best doll.
So her mom is okay with her being a professional athlete and a superhero.
She wants her to do both.
Her to be.
Yeah, and Cissie not so much.
Yeah, she is Sally Jupiter.
Yeah, she's Kris Jenner. When the second Arrowette debuts in Impulse, she's wearing what I kind of consider to be her OG costume.
Okay.
It's really frilly. There's a rhinestone mask. She has a bare belly. It's her mom's costume from, 2 decades earlier, a decade and a half earlier.
Okay, you may not know the answer to this question, and that's fine. In your DC Universe timeline,
yes,
her mom would be contemporary with what superhero? Like Batman and Superman?
Like Black Canary.
Okay, so the wave one.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, but not the Golden Age people.
No.
Okay, cool.
Kind of the yeah.
So like Hal Jordan, Barry Allen, Dinah Land. Yeah, the Justice League that we know.
The Justice League that cropped up in the Silver Age.
Cool.
Yes.
I'm just curious.
Around that time. And like I said, her original costume is an homage to her mother's original costume. When she later went on to join Young Justice, her costume gets a lot less extravagant and gets a little more lean and mean. It's still the red and white motif of the original design.
Yeah, I like that.
The mask loses the jewels. It becomes more of your classic domino mask.
Less bedazzled.
That you think of. Yes, definitely. And because comics, she still wears high heels and her midriff is showing at all times, even though that's where all your soft, vulnerable parts are. And I will still scream about it because I'm still mad.
Can you imagine making those shots on high heels? I can't.
I can't imagine running in high heels.
Oh, that too.
Just like on a basic level, and jumping, like it's all I can do to go up and down stairs.
Robin's like, keep up, Arrowette. I'll be right there.
Yeah, truly, absolutely. Or Wonder Woman for that matter. Yeah, embarrassing.
No, Wonder Woman, I buy it because she has Amazon skills.
Okay, but still, and Amazon would never wear high heels. That's a discussion for another time.
But she's so good that she can make it work.
But she would never do it.
No, but she can make it work.
Sure.
Arrowette, not so much.
Not so much. When Arrowette meets Impulse for the first time, she is eager to prove her worth to him as a superhero, and she's actually actively seeking mentorship as a superhero because she thinks her mom is a bad mentor.
From Impulse? Or Max Mercury?
So... kind of right now from anyone.
Oh, she's just desperate.
Just like, not my mom, please, someone who's not my mom. And
so Arrowette's like rolling into gas stations and be like, hey, you looking to train a superhero? And the guy's like, no.
This is a reference for like a very specific crowd, but Arrowette is that person at the LA party who asks everyone who their agent is and if they'll introduce them in an email. That's who Arrowette is in this moment.
That is some inside
Such
baseball.
A narrow, yeah, but it was the first thing I could think of.
If you live in the Los Angeles area, you will totally get that joke. Also, if you live in the Los Angeles area, how's your manager? Is it good? Give us an email at geekhistorylesson@gmail.com.
You have a great literary agent.
That was a double joke there.
Yes,
I don't know if you got that.
Thank you. The joke's not funny if you have to explain it, Harley.
Listen, Joker.
I don't like this scenario. I want to be Poison Ivy. Let's be lesbians, Jason.
Let's be talking about Arrowette.
So Arrowette, right, is looking for a mentor, and if you're not familiar with the Impulse series, one, go read it.
It's a great series.
Second, as Jason alluded to, Bart at the time was being raised and mentored by Max Mercury, a OG Golden Age DC speedster who is an old man by this point.
I have said this on the podcast before. I would love to teach a Max Mercury lesson, but he's not in current DC continuity, so not really anybody suggests him.
We have a couple of suggestions.
I would love to teach Max Mercury. He is one of my favorite Flash characters.
All right, listeners, I'm going to make this appeal to you.
Uh-oh.
Because we will do characters because they're big and important or because we want to. If we get more than 10 Max Mercury requests, we'll slot them in.
Hashtag Mercury yes.
Yes, GHL Mercury yes.
Hashtag Mercury yes. We will fast track the Max Mercury
episode. And then you'll have an excuse to read Impulse. So, Arrowette saw Impulse. She thought that Impulse was doing a pretty good job, which is hilarious because if you know anything about Impulse, also I would die to teach an Impulse episode. He's not a great superhero.
Hey, this is not the place to just like be asking people to request episodes. Ashley, we don't do that here, okay?
Yeah, no. So much for John Wick. But she thought that Impulse was such a good superhero that she's like, I should be trained by the person who trained Impulse.
Yeah.
So she does approach Max Mercury because she kind of figured that Bonnie, her mom, had her image under control, but she needed to learn properly how to become a good superhero. So it's even, like I said, it's even a plot point in Young Justice that Bonnie is trying to merchandise them. She wants Arrowette to be the front runner / leader. Arrowette's actually the first female member of Young Justice.
Before Cassie?
She beats Cassie by
Who is Wonder Girl,
3
everybody?
or 4 issues.
Okay, interesting.
So she's definitely important in the team hierarchy, but Robin was always the obvious leader, so she's definitely relegated to like a backseat position. In fact, there's several points throughout the first 12 issues of Young Justice that deal with who should be leading the team, despite the fact that everyone always knew it was going to be Tim, which is so hilarious to me. But I think Cissie makes a really good lieutenant. Like, she's really good at like the groundwork, and later on she becomes a really good strategist, which I think is interesting. Now, Max Mercury tells her, no, I won't train you. I have my hands full with Bart. Also, I don't do what you do. I'm a speedster. And Cissie's really, really brokenhearted by that. And I wanted to ask you, Jason, do you think if he had agreed that he would have been a good mentor, or who do you think would have been a better choice?
Can I ask you a question that might spoil something that's coming up in your lesson? Does she go to find more mentors?
Not right away.
Not right away. Okay, so she doesn't go on a hero quest a la Kyle Rayner Green
No,
Lantern.
like after this first appearance, she rolls right onto Young Justice.
Oh, so she's like, I give up. The obvious choice is Green Arrow, but I don't know why Green Arrow would agree to train her. I honestly think she should have gone to Roy Harper. Arsenal, the Red Arrow. Like, because he was a guy trained by a superhero, and he made being a archer superhero work. So why couldn't he do it for her?
And he was the OG Speedy as well.
Agreed.
Now, Cissie gets introduced.
Look, Max Mercury's a weird choice for her to go to. It really is. Now, he would have been a great teacher, but he's exactly right, where he's like, he probably has no idea how to fire a bow.
Yeah.
So how could he help her?
Yeah. I think the reason that we don't get more of Arrowette with the Green Arrow family, because like obvious choices, Green Arrow, Arsenal, Speedy, Black Canary, any of them, right? Anyone who's ever shot a bow with like any kind of aplomb. I mean, at that point, even Helena. But I think it's because not too long after she's introduced, or around the same time, you'll forgive me, I haven't taught the episode on her, Mia's introduced, and they literally serve the same purpose.
The second Speedy, the one created by Kevin Smith.
Yes.
I agree. Mia steals her thunder.
I think so. It's too bad that they kind of were created the way that they were, and couldn't have been
almost the same character.
And they both look the same, that they couldn't have been combined into one, like that Speedy couldn't have also been the member of Young Justice, because I think that's what would have been best, and I think that's why Cissie's kind of been relegated to obscurity.
Look, I will say this: I don't honestly know. So you said Tom Payer, Payer creator. I know Tom also had some. He helped with Young Justice as well.
Yes.
So I wonder if they knew that Young Justice was...
I think they did, and that's why I think they shoved her in Impulse.
So I think they knew Young Justice was coming down the pike, and they were like, we need a archer.
Yep, because we're mocking the original lineup, which had Speedy in it.
I bet you they knew about Mia, and they asked for Mia, and
Kevin Smith said, no, man.
Or Kevin Smith or the Green Arrow editors.
Because Kevin Smith wouldn't have said
the
no.
Green Arrow editorial. Because every time...
Editorial's always trying to protect their families. We get it.
Well, fun fact, many people may not know this out there in the world, but you may ask, like, oh, why don't we get, like, Robin in this title? Or why don't we get Superman in this title? Every time a character in a shared continuity universe, either DC or Marvel, hops into another book. So when Superman shows up in the Batman books, that's only possible because the Superman editors have said yes or no. Because
the editors, their job is, when they're allowed to do it to the best of their ability, it's to protect the integrity of their families, their universe's continuity.
Or also the idea, like, okay, so Superman can't guest star in every book across the DC universe. You know, so
only Batman can do that.
Well, yeah, so it's the part of their job to be like, well, Superman's already in 5 books, so no, he can't be in book 6.
Yeah.
So I bet you they said no, and Tom Payer and Peter David were like, well, fine, we'll create our own.
Yeah. Although I did want to say that Black Canary does later go on to become a mentor and a trainer for Young Justice.
Cool.
So that's kind of cool. But her and Cissie never really have a relationship developed, which I think is a missed opportunity. So like I said, Max does not accept the role as Cissie's mentor, but he does express concern that her mother is exploiting her. And for once, he's
right.
for once, as a superhero, he doesn't take matters into his own hands. He actually kind of goes out on a limb for her as Max Mercury civilian. So Max contacts Child Protective Services. And I just want to say, Child Protective Services, real life superheroes, if you ask me. And so Cissie is removed from her mother's custody under Max's accusations, and she's sent to the Elias School for Girls. It's a boarding school for troubled girls, and actually doesn't seem as evil as you might think it is for a comic book. It's kind of just like a really nice boarding school, like Hogwarts with no... Yeah, we see it
in Teen Titans.
We see it in Teen Titans really, really briefly, but we will talk about it. But it actually seems like a nice place. Like, she's not like thrown in an institution or anything like that.
You know, weirdly, I know this is not the Max Mercury lesson, but I really think... I really think that Max Mercury sounds like John Wayne. And you want to know my theory about that? Because Max Mercury is actually from the 1860s.
What?
Yeah. Fun listeners.
I know almost nothing about Max Mercury.
If this is getting you more excited for hashtag Mercury, yes, Max Mercury episode. So Max Mercury is from the 1860s, 1870s. He's actually a cowboy. He is the first speedster in history, and he's the first speedster to discover the Speed Force. And when he ran faster than light in the 1860s, he bounced through time.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So he spent some time in the 1920s. He spent some time in the 1930s, and each time he's tried to go back,
he just keeps going forward.
He keeps going forward. And so the reason why he's Max Mercury now and the reason why he's an old man is because he's been like, well, I'm not going to try it anymore because if I keep going, I'll keep going forward and forward and forward. So because of that, I think he's a cowboy. And because of that, I think he sounds like this. My name is Max Mercury, little missy.
Oh, that's sweet.
He sounds like John Wayne.
Yeah, I never would have thought of that.
Fun fact, John Wayne, not a great person in real life, but a great cowboy actor.
It's okay, he's dead.
Yeah.
Cissie becomes a celebrated student at the Elias School for Girls.
Well, good for you, little missy.
She joins the archery team and soon achieves the rank of captain and leads them to several impressive victories. She gets a whole bunch of trophies, which is kind of cool. Then she kind of disappears for like 30 whole seconds until Young Justice number 4, where she gets a more practical, although not at all really practical, version of her costume that we talked about before. And she joins the team to fight against the villain called Harm, because all the Young Justice villains have silly names. Although, fun fact, during the first team up, Arrowette is accidentally injured by one of her own arrows, proving she's not a great superhero. Her joining the team marks a diversity of gender, although literally nothing else. It's such a white team in the Young Justice lineup, so I do appreciate that. And along with Cissie, Cassie Sands, Mark Wonder Girl, who Jason mentioned, and Greta Hayes, a.k.a. The Secret, kind of round up the original lineup.
I love The Secret.
I love Secret. She's in like 5 seconds of the TV show. I want her to come
I wish Secret was in the current Young Justice run.
I agree. In fact, Cissie is instrumental in rescuing Secret from the DOA several times throughout the course of Young Justice. Jason, what's the DOA?
I don't know. I know the DEO. I don't know. Who's the DOA?
Oh, I meant DEO, but I wrote Dead on Arrival.
Oh!
Sorry. That's me. That's me. That's me typing and reading with only half my... Definitely.
Jason, who's Dead on Arrival?
I was like, it's the Department of Extra Normal Operations.
Yeah, the Department of Extra Normal Operations.
But I was like looking at it being like, that's not an anagram. I'm so sorry.
They are the organization that has been co-opted by Supergirl and the CW. In the comics, they're led by a literal skeleton, Director Bones.
Yes, who's awesome.
I love him. Yeah, he's really cool.
Truly.
They actually just brought him back into continuity, which is really cool.
Oh, that's cool.
There is a great series in the mid-2000s called Chase.
Yes. So we've recommended it before.
Yes, which she's an agent for the DEO. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really cool. She's like the secret agent of the DC Universe. It's really good. But DOA, maybe someday soon.
Dead on Arrival. Yeah. The 3 girls quickly form a close bond because, while I love Young Justice, it is incapable of imagining a world where the girls and boys don't think each other is icky and might hang out together. For more on these specific events of Young Justice, check out episode 240. I teach it.
This is the Young Justice episode.
That's the Young Justice episode. While the characters' ages aren't explicitly stated over the course of Young Justice, Cissie, in my mind, always came across as one of the older characters. And writer Peter David, he wrote the main Young Justice series, consistently uses her to explore more mature themes than the rest of her teammates. For example, she's the only member of Young Justice who dabbles in the realm of murder or considering murder. She seriously considers taking human life. She deals with suicide. She deals with the death of a loved one, much to the fear of her teammates. And in my opinion, this makes her very dynamic and very interesting, especially for the tone of the original Young Justice series. I also like her embracing these darker themes because to me, it makes her more like Oliver Queen and Roy Harper and Mia Dearden.
Like the Archers.
Yeah, particularly in a post-Arrow DC universe.
Totally.
They're always doing something a little darker, a little edgier. And so even though she's very much divorced from what that family of characters was doing, I kind of like that thematically they're all tied together. Now, Jason, I'm going to ask you your opinion. Mm-hmm. Do you think that Cissie is a more or less dynamic character than some of her Young Justice counterparts?
You mean like the original, like the comic book?
Yeah, and I mean just within the context of the Young Justice series, which I know you're familiar with, because, I mean, Robin's always going to be top of the pile because he's Batman's sidekick.
She's less dynamic. Mm-hmm. She's 100% less dynamic because she's coming into Young Justice against 4 characters, 3 who have solo series before this 100-issue run solo series before they hit this. Impulse, Superboy and Robin, and Wonder Girl, who was established like for 20 issues in Wonder Woman, who should also have she should have had her own solo run. That's just weird. But she's way less developed. She is. And I think her being way less developed is part of the reason why she's not part of the reason why the Young Justice cartoon has replaced her in the Young Justice cartoon.
In their continuity.
Yeah, she doesn't exist there.
Yeah. So over the course of her time as a member of Young Justice, Cissie really falls out of love with being a superhero. Remember I mentioned at the top of the episode she wasn't really into it, which ultimately leads to her quitting what she refers to as the game.
There's no quitters in my edge of the game, honey.
You're not a superhero.
Max Mercury is a superhero.
Oh, I thought you were being John Wayne.
I am being John Wayne and
sorry, Max.
Max Mercury.
If you would like to see Max Mercury show up in this year's Christmas special.
Nobody wants that, little missy.
Please, you know what? I want Max to talk to Tex.
You better be careful there. Yeah, that could create a big old hood boggle.
Fun fact. This actually comes up during a game when the members of Young Justice are having a sleepover and they play Truth or Dare, and Cissie admits that she wants to quit being a superhero. It's really sad, actually.
It's interesting because through most of the 90s, Tim Drake also has a similar idea. Like most of the Robin Tim Drake solo run, he kind of is like, I'm not going to be Robin forever. Particularly
when his father is still alive and because he's trying to balance his normal life with his dad and then his superhero life with his adoptive dad.
I actually think it's very realistic because...
Well, are you going to do it for the rest of your life?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
In the real world... You wouldn't be a superhero. It's the same thing like you're not
a year tops.
You're not a football player for being a cop. Yeah. You know, for most of your life, you're not any kind of professional athlete so you have to think about superheroes as professional athletes, right? Just the injuries you would sustain would be insane. So I actually think it makes her a more well-rounded and realistic character.
From this point forward, she really continues to struggle with the idea of doing good work versus establishing herself as an independent human being. So basically being Cissie instead of being Arrowette. She opens up about her conflicted feelings to her high school therapist, who she develops a close bond with because comics are comics, though, and because superheroes and one of your parents or parent figures has to die, the therapist is very brutally murdered.
Oh.
In the second arc of Young Justice.
All right.
You see a good chunk of the crime. Like, it's surprisingly vicious for Young Justice.
Let me ask you this. Do most private schools have therapists? Because I went to a public school and we didn't have a therapist.
I think
good on that private school. Well
and
done.
They do make a point that she's a therapist, not a counselor.
Yeah.
We believe that everyone should have therapy for all. So well done, fake private school.
Exactly. Therapy, if you need it, go use it.
Even if you don't need it, because you probably do.
Yeah.
So it's when Arrowette is seeking revenge for the death of her only healthy mother figure that she ever trusted, that she goes to this deep, dark place that I mentioned earlier where she's contemplating murder. She's so enraged that she tracks down the 2 attackers and she's poised to take their life as recompense when Superboy shows up and he stops her from making the biggest mistake of her life.
And this is Connor Kent, Superboy.
Kent, Superboy, shows up in his 90s ass costume with his earring and is like, hey, you're better than this. Don't do this.
How much you like vinyl, sissy? That's what he says.
From the 90s?
No, but he listens to it.
He probably listens to, I don't know what that band's name is.
Insane Clown Posse. If he's in the 90s.
Who wrote Smells Like Teen Spirit?
Nirvana?
Yeah, that's what he listens to.
That'd be an old fogey band.
In the 90s?
Hey, man. Early 90s.
Man,
this is late 90s.
How old do you think Connor is?
I don't know. He's into 311 as well.
I don't understand that reference.
The listeners do.
If you understand 311, tweet us.
No, please don't.
This event directly led to Cissie setting aside the mantle of Arrowette and ultimately leaving young Justice. She does stick around for a little while. She reconciles with her mother. She goes to the Olympics that are not branded the Olympics because DC was not approved as an official partner. She's a TV guest star in some sitcoms and does help as a private citizen Red Tornado reconnect with his daughter, Thea, and she eventually helps get Secret placed in her boarding school. So Greta goes to the same school as Cissie.
Ah, nice.
So that they can stay together and look out for each other post superheroing, because if you're not familiar with The Secret, she also eventually quits being a superhero when she frees her brother. More on that in her lesson. Despite being urged by her teammates at several different story points to take up the mantle of Arrowette once again, she never puts the costume back on, which is pretty unusual for comics.
I think still to this day.
To this day, yeah. Cissie is present during the Imperiex War, where she offers medical aid in the wake of Young Justice's work. Now, Jason just got very excited, so we're going to do a sidebar on the Imperiex War.
Sidebar that is actually a DC Comics event called Our Worlds at War.
But the, I think the one that was subtitled, I think that's the name of the Young Justice storyline, is Imperiex
Young Justice.
War.
No. Young Justice is actually just a big part of it.
Okay, cool.
But it is the Our Worlds at War. Imperiex is the villain of the whole thing.
Oh, so maybe in universe is it refers to as the Imperiex War?
Basically, because Imperiex is sort of a Galactus type figure that Jeff Loeb introduces into, and the reason why it's called Our Worlds is because all the cosmic worlds of the DC universe band together because he's so powerful.
Oh, that's cool.
So, I enjoy it. It's full of mid-2000s cosmic-y goodness. But I dig it.
Maybe we'll tack that into the recommended reading.
I think Imperiex would be a great live action or Young Justice villain.
Really?
He's been the villain of the Legion of Superheroes cartoon in the second season.
Oh, you're right.
He's great. Imperiex is such a great character, but the Young Justice part of that is actually one of the best parts.
Oh, well, I'm going to talk about that now, so you feel free. Young Justice is pretty split during this time as well, because the Justice League has been dealing with the revelation that Batman has secret files on everybody.
Tower of Babel.
And no one knew whether or not they could trust Robin. So there's this whole thing about who's going to be the new leader. Spoiler alert, it becomes Cassie. But Cissie, even though she's not there as a member of the team, she's not there as Arrowette, she's just there kind of to help bandage people up afterward. Her presence is considered calming in a difficult time.
Yeah, because she doesn't wear a costume during it.
She does not, but she's just kind of there running around in jeans, and you're like, okay, whatever. The next time we see Cissie is when she cameos along with Cassie and Greta at the beginning of Teen Titans, and then disappointingly does not join the team in any capacity.
I know.
It's literally a one-page. So in the first couple issues, you get these one-page intros to the characters kind of in their home before they go away to Titan's Tower for the weekend and they reforge this team. And when you see Cassie, Cissie, and Greta are now all at the Elias boarding school. And they don't want to let Cassie in because Cassie's got a bit of a record and she's known for being tough. So Cissie bursts into the headmistress's office with her bow strung. And she's like, if you want me to keep winning Olympic medals, then you're gonna let Cassie come to school here. And then they all hug. It's really sweet, but I kind of wish that even if Cissie and Greta, because they were so important to Young Justice and they were such good friends to Cassie in her early days, I kind of wish that they were maybe in an Oracle or a support position in Teen Titans. But
agree.
I get that you've rebranded it and you don't want it to feel like
And also
Young Justice 2.0.
Well, also in that same run, Mia joins the Teen Titans. Mia, the Speedy from the
but much later.
But
much later.
You have to think about, again, you have to put your mind sometimes into some editorial decisions. I don't know how much ownership Tom Pyre, I don't know how to say that last name, but he's a great writer, and Peter David have of those characters. Because if they have ownership rights to those characters, they might have been the ones to say no. The same as there's a reason why we have never seen Jack Knight Starman in the DC universe post his series, because James Robinson owns the rights to the character, and they will never let that character
Sometimes
appear.
it also depends on if they're being earmarked for other things. That's the reason we haven't seen Booster Gold or Ted Kord in the Arrowverse, because they're off doing other stuff.
But I agree with you. It's weird that they're not in that series.
And you're absolutely right. When you have
Young Justice is great.
You have to think about it in the macrocosm. Like me as a fan, I'm like, they should have been there.
Well, we always want that, right? We want more.
Yes, we do. Then, in the wake of Connor Kent's death, spoilers, he dies for like 5 seconds.
Infinite Crisis!
We're not talking about Infinite Crisis.
Infinite Crisis! How many crises? Infinite.
Cissie does crop up again in Wonder Girl #2 and in Wonder Girl #3. It's a miniseries where she and Anita fight, who is Empress, console Cassie and help her through her grieving process.
No, good for them.
Then in Wonder Girl #4, we see Cissie sporting a new Arrowette costume and working with Wonder Girl. But then the New 52 happens and we literally never see her again.
I don't think we've seen her since.
So Jason, real quick, what's the New 52?
Well, New 52 is Barry Allen got all sad about his mommy and ran back in time. So much so that when he ran back in time, he changed the entire timeline. The entire DC universe, except for Batman and Green Lantern, were completely rebooted. Superman was rebooted so much that he stopped wearing underwear and started wearing jeans. And everything was different.
So because she literally never shows up again, I do want to mention really quick 2 kind of alternate universe cameos that she makes in Flashpoint. Which you can go and listen to.
Which is the event that launches the New 52. And we have an episode on it, yes.
Arrowette is present very briefly, and she joins the Amazon's Furies in that series.
Cool.
And then in one of Jason's actual all-time favorite series, The Multiversity.
Oh, yeah.
She's named Cissie King Hawk instead of Cissie King Jones.
Why Hawk?
She's Connor Hawk's daughter, and she's super spoiled and super popular and totally awful.
Okay, wait.
Yeah, she's like his bitchy little daughter.
I know exactly what issue you're talking about.
Yeah.
There is an issue. So if you do not know, and if you haven't read The Multiversity, my God, why haven't you? The Multiversity is one of the best DC Comics miniseries ever published. It was after they brought back the multiverse, the 52 multiverses, the 52 universes, excuse me. And Grant Morrison wrote, I think it's like an 8-part or a 9-part series where each issue is set on a different Earth. And one of the Earths are dealing with the idea that all the 90s characters, Kyle Rayner, Connor Hawk, Tim Drake, Damian, all the Young Justice characters are the spoiled ass, arrogant children of the original Justice League.
Yes.
So to be honest with you, you know what? I like her being the daughter of Connor Hawk.
Me too.
Retcon accepted.
During this event, too, she tries to start her own superhero team that they want to call The Just, but Connor tells her she's not up to it, so she quits. Which is
funny.
Kind of harsh. So since we've reached the end of her comic book continuity, I want to talk a little bit about the Young Justice cartoon.
How can we not?
But I do want to say here really, really quick that if people are interested, because I know we're not doing reviews anymore.
Wait.
Things like that.
Ashley, are you going #Mercury yes? Is this where this is going? #Mercury yes, Max Mercury lesson?
#Mercury yes, but I'm actually going...
We want a little lesson on a Max Mercury.
I'm actually going a little more #Geek History Lesson Extra.
What?
Because if people go over to patreon.com/Jawiin, you know how to spell it. It's Jawiin.
Is that difficult to spell? I wonder about that sometimes.
I don't know.
Okay,
Spelling is hard in general. We can't pronounce people's names. We shouldn't judge.
Sure.
But we do have a bunch of extra podcasts over there, including Geek History Lesson Extra, where we talk a little bit more about a subject that ties into our main lesson. And we are not going to review Young Justice Outsiders. But
well, yeah, it came out so long ago.
We are going to share our thoughts on the show and where we hope it goes in future on the Geek History Lesson Extra. So if that's something that you're interested in,
and specifically Artemis's
role, you might even call that Arrowette versus Artemis, where we're going to kind of lay down the law.
That's what I call it.
On that. So if that interests you, if Jason and Ashley's Excellent Adventure, which is a little more personal, interests you, if Blackest Nightclub, where we're diving into all kinds of zombie greatness, interests you, head on over patreon.com/Jawiin. Throw a little support our way. Help the Mind University keep its lights on, because it takes a lot of energy to do all of these impressions. And thank you to all of the amazing people who have, who do, and who will support us over there. You're the only reason this show exists.
Yeah, no, seriously.
We appreciate it.
Yeah, we appreciate it. You guys are awesome over there. Come be an awesome super friend at patreon.com/Jawiin.
So, Jason, did you know in the Young Justice cartoon, there is a character called Cissie King Jones?
Nope. Who is it?
Who plays a character called Arrowette. Arrowette appears super briefly as like a swipe by cameo in Young Justice. And when you go and if you research the character in the television show continuity, there's a picture of her in the red and the little skirt and everything. And she's called Cissie King Jones, and she's called Arrowette. You see her once, she never talks.
So they just made a new character then.
Kind of, yeah.
Although I know Artemis is based on like an old 70s character.
Yes. So Young Justice, for all intents and purposes, took this character, slapped a different costume and a different name on it, and basically made her a little edgier.
It is the same character. I mean, it literally is.
It is. Young Justice changed her name to Artemis Croc, who, much like the Ray, uses the code name Artemis for the first seasons of the show, even though that is her first name and it is not a code name. She's trained by Green Arrow, whereas Cissie obviously was not. She is the daughter of Lawrence and Paula Croc and the younger sister of Jawiin. Now, Jason, do you know the alter egos of Artemis's father and sister?
Well, her father is Sportsmaster, the dumbest DC villain ever created. And her sister is Cheetah?
Cheshire,
excuse me.
That's okay. That's a very...
That's close. Doesn't she become Cheetah? Or no, she becomes... Tigress. What a dumb name.
With the dumbest costume. In my opinion, I think the coolest thing about this reimagining of Artemis is her dope green costume. Her belly is still out, which I'm against, but I think her green costume with the little arrowhead on the chest is really cool.
Yeah, it's all right.
I like it a lot. I've seen some cool cosplayers do it. And I think the fact that she's half Caucasian, half Vietnamese,
I like that.
Is really cool. She's basically the love child of me and my best friend, who's Vietnamese.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So it appeals to me like on a weird personal level.
The thing I like the most about this character is her relationship with Wally West.
Oh, we're going to talk about Wally West.
Are we?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Hashtag Mercury, yes?
Hashtag, have we done a Wally West episode?
I don't know.
There's been so
yes,
episodes.
I think we have.
Did I teach it?
I think I taught it.
Okay. Jade ran away from home. Her older sister ran away from home and followed her parents into a life of villainy as Cheshire.
We should say spoilers for all seasons of Young Justice, by the way, in case you...
I mean, by this point, we're like so far past.
I know, but,
okay, but
just in case anybody's planning on hopping over to DC Universe, full spoilers at this point right now.
That's fair. So... her sister runs away to become a villain like her parents. She adopts the identity of Cheshire, whereas Artemis is trained by her father and mother in the art of the bow and arrow, which leads her to becoming a vigilante, the opposite of a villain. When her mother is finally released from prison, Artemis follows in her sister's footsteps and runs away from home, subsequently meeting and joining Young Justice! Because she saved Superboy, Robin, and Kid Flash from an Amazo. So there was no real question about whether or not she deserved to be on the team. What I think is great about this moment is it echoes when Cissie originally joined Young Justice by saving the boys, although not from an Amazo, but still very a nice callback, I think.
Saving the Young Justice boys, not the Carl Urban boys, just to be clear.
You know, I think she's badass enough to save the Carl Urban boys as well.
I think that would be an interesting meeting. I'm just going to say.
You know what? I'd watch it.
Crossover.
That's how you get me to watch The Boys. It was during this time that Batman and Green Arrow gave her the fake identity of being Oliver Queen's niece, and he steps up to mentor her and act as a father figure to her. From the get-go, she's pretty much at odds with Roy Harper, a.k.a. Red Arrow, who felt that she was taking his place, and Kid Flash initially, who often blamed her for things that went wrong in their early missions, even if they were not her fault. In grand superhero tradition, Artemis and Young Justice lost their memories on a mission to Bealia and basically had to relearn how to trust everyone. Things picked up when Zatanna joined the team, and she quickly became Artemis's closest friend and confidant. I like this detail because it's something that's run throughout Young Justice. They even play on it in the Outsiders series. I think it's a great little detail. Check out our Zatanna lesson, episode 267, also taught by me. In fact, when Artemis gets upset over learning that Miss Martian and Superboy are together because she has a crush on Superboy, because everyone has a crush on Superboy, Zatanna takes her to New York City to fight crime and punch her feelings in the face. Now, fun fact, during this trip to New York, they fight harm, just like the foe that they fought in Arrowette's first comic appearance. And they work together with Secret, who never appears in the show again. Then Wally's birthday party happens, and we get the first real seeds of the later relationship when Wally tries to kiss McGann, and Artemis gets real mad about it and like huffs and crosses her arms. Any complicated teenage feelings are set aside because the team takes on Sportsmaster, Jason's favorite villain. And Artemis has to team up with Red Arrow to take down her father and his accomplice Cheshire, her sister. This ultimately forces Artemis to come clean about her family to the rest of Young Justice, who up to this point didn't know much about where she came from. And fun fact, it was Superboy's admission of his familial ties to Lex Luthor that inspired her to be honest and upfront as well. So I think that's kind of nice. Young Justice does battle with and beats the Light, who were the villains of the first season. And Artemis celebrates by smooching Kid Flash. Yay! They further celebrate by moving to Palo Alto and attending Stanford University. Jason, do you know what Artemis studies?
Biology.
Yeah, you're not wrong. She double majors in human biology and comparative lit.
I know my stuff.
I knew it was a wild fact, but I just thought maybe. I
got one of them.
She and Wally move into a house together because I think they created this before Palo Alto was the hub of Facebook, with their dog. Do you know the dog's name?
Max Mercury?
It's Bruce Lee.
Why Bruce? Oh, Bruce Lee, like Bruce Lee?
Brucely.
That's come on. But
it has to be a Bruce Lee. Come on,
it has to be a Bruce Lee
joke.
Come on.
Well, and she's kind of a ninja, so
I'm fine with that. That's cool.
Yeah. Artemis led a group called Alpha Squad to investigate the discovery of Cassie Sandsmark, which leads to the team uncovering the League of Shadows, who are working in conjunction with Cheshire. And then it was later revealed that Cheshire was working under the guidance of Sportsmaster all along, looking for a secret Babylonian artifact, which she uncovered and stole while Artemis was fighting with the team. The conflict with Sportsmaster and the League caused a heavy loss of civilian life and angered Aquagirl. So Artemis and Wally quit the team to focus on school and their relationship, because when her dad has this little villainous arc, it becomes too much for her to balance. Since Artemis's family was directly responsible for Aquagirl's death and Atlantis wanting revenge, Artemis allowed it to appear as if Aqualad had killed her. She fakes her own death and conceals her identity, and this leads directly into her taking on a new superhero identity as Tigress, which Jason mentioned, and working as Aqualad's second in command, because you're kind of led to believe for a while that Aqualad's evil. That
he's Black Manta Jr.
Yes, which is true.
No, but I mean, like, they kind of, because he has armor that looks like Black Manta, so to me, I'm like, oh, it's Black Manta Jr.
Black Manta Jr.
Well, like Captain Marvel Jr.
No, you're not wrong. It just sounds
Uncle
funny.
Manta, maybe?
Uncle Manta. He's Nephew Manta.
He's Nephew Manta.
Aqualad splits off from Young Justice and takes more extreme measures. When the two halves of the former teams come into conflict, Miss Martian can read Tigress's mind, and she figures out that it's been Artemis all along, and that she's trying to help Calder, and that they're just trying to do the right thing. So undercover, Tigress continues to pretend to work with Manta and Deathstroke while secretly conspiring with Calder and Miss Martian to take them down. And together, while trying to free Calder, she discovers Sportsmaster fighting Black Manta, and Black Manta kills Sportsmaster, but they think it's her, so she gets charged with killing her father. Deathstroke and Cheshire show up for a big fight. Everyone escapes, and McGann doesn't help Tigress escape when she asks for help. It's not until later when Artemis and Calder reveal their true identities to the Reach that McGann does show up for them, and she reveals that she's been masquerading as Deathstroke ever since the big fight. The big fight! During which Artemis and Wally are reunited, and he forgives her pretty quickly for lying to him about whether or not she was alive, which is a bad thing to do to your boyfriend, even if you're like maybe 19. Even reunited, though, they argued about whether or not they should retire from superheroing, and Wally proposes that they run away and move to Paris. Then Young Justice committed the greatest sin that you could commit against a speedster by saying that Wally West isn't the fastest Flash, and he died. So then Artemis and Bruce Lee moved to Star City, where they lived for the next 2 years with Will Harper and Leanne Nguyen Harper. Jason, who's Will Harper?
Clone of Roy.
Yes. Who she lives with. And this is where we're going to wrap it up, because we're going to talk about Young Justice Outsiders in our extra. So that is your 2-part series on Arrowette / Artemis, because they're kind of the same character. Whew. Recommended reading?
You're saying that like a question.
I'm hoping that you were going to do the intro.
Oh, I wasn't certain. You were just like, recommended. I was like, I would love recommended reading, Ashley. Yes, please.
What is it?
You go to geekhistorylesson.com/recommended reading. And if you click on the widgets for this episode, we will give you reading that you should read if you listen to this podcast. Click on it. It takes you to Amazon. You can pick up the book, and a little percentage of your purchase comes back to the Mind University. So go check it out. We have recommended reading and book choices for every single character we've ever done.
So, you listen to this episode, you know what's up. There's really only 2 things that I can recommend. So I'm going to recommend that you pick up Young Justice, book 1, 2, and 3. And then you check out
those 3 things.
Young Justice, season 1, 2, and 3.
Well, that's 6 things.
Well, it's 2 titles.
You said 2 things. You got rid of them in 6.
Well, it's the Young Justice comic book series, and then it's the Young Justice.
Actually, I need to enroll you at Stanford for math.
I stopped taking math when I was in grade 10. I don't have to take it no more. 2 is divisible by 6. No, 6 is divisible by 2.
I think you just proved my point.
Math. Anyway, the Young Justice book is her greatest comic series, and the TV show's pretty good too.
Look, I will say this: if
stuff.
you have not read the Young Justice series by Peter David and Todd Nuck, it is great. It is it's a great time of DC Comics, and it's a great. And they're finally putting out book 4 of that series. So,
woo!
Yep.
Discussion.
You keep throwing these questions at me like, discussion? I mean, I know we're doing these sections, but like,
I'm just hoping you'll say yes.
Sure, go.
Do you think changing her name to Artemis was a bad choice?
Changing whose name? You mean in the show?
In the show. Should she have been called Arrowette, or should she have been called Artemis?
Artemis is the better code name. Mm-hmm. I mean, I hate the fact that, and again, I know for a fact that this Artemis, I don't know because I haven't done the research. I'm literally doing this blind off the top of my head. So I guarantee you I'm going to say something wrong. And please, Young Justice crazies, don't come after me on the internet, because I love Young Justice, but sometimes Young Justice fans are quite...
They're crazy.
They're quite...
fervent.
I didn't want to say abusive, but they'll come after you. They're like the Snyder Cut people. Mm-hmm. They'll come after you, and it's like,
they're vocal.
They're very vocal, and I love the show. So chill out. Mm-hmm. I know Artemis is based on some other DC character. Mm-hmm. I don't know who, because I cannot pull it off the top of my head. I think it's real dumb that her name is Artemis and her code name is Artemis, just like Jean Grey. Mm-hmm. It's real dumb, especially in that universe where secret identities matter. I think she should have had Arrowette's name, Cissie
King Jones.
Cissie King Jones, and she should have been named Artemis. That's my feelings. How do you feel about it? As I know as you're Googling something.
Artemis Croc debuted in Infinity Inc. number 34, January of 1987, and was created by writer Rory Thomas and artist Todd McFarlane.
So they took the character. So
who does almost nothing until the New 52.
Infinity Inc. is the team of the children of the Just Society of America. Nuklon comes from there. Jade comes from that series. So that I knew that character existed. I wasn't certain where.
So they took her and they took Arrowette.
And they combined
them.
They
mushed them together.
Yeah.
And created a new character.
Yeah, because that Artemis you just read about is not an archer.
No.
Okay.
But it's kind of interesting because Young Justice does that a lot, where they play with things that you know, but they also try to do something different, but it's not that different. Like Calderon is perhaps the most successful example of that, because we have Aqua Boys, we have Aqua Lads, we have Aqua Girls. There's like 5 of them.
Yeah, but Calderon is in the comic books, though.
No, I know that.
But he's called Jackson.
But you know that he was... I think we talked about this in the Calder episode.
He was created for the Young Justice show, and then they popped him up.
Jeff Johns shoved him in an issue to be like, we did it first.
No, he was supposed to debut in the comic books first, but what happened is that the comic book got delayed, and so Young Justice beat him.
We did a Calder episode. Jason taught it. It was great.
Yeah, it was really good.
But to me, he's a more successible version of that because Calder actually adds something to the Aquaman world, whereas I think Artemis detracts.
All right, let's pull this. Let's pull out of this for a little bit. Let's pull out of our fan brains here.
Sure.
Even as much as you and I both love Young Justice, the comic book and the cartoon series, do we think? And I kind of think this might have been the case. Do we not think, because you can tell in season 1 they wanted to do that whole big reveal of, oh, she's not Green Arrow's nephew. She's actually the daughter of Sportsmaster.
Like anyone watching knew who Sportsmaster was.
Do you think there's a chance that DC Comics, because DC Comics gets approval over live action and cartoon adaptations about what they can do with their storylines, do you think DC Comics editorial might have been like, no, you can't do that to Arrowette?
Interesting.
And because of that, they had to create a new character.
There's a possibility. There's a definite possibility.
Because I bet you they were in love with that storyline of, oh, one of these kids has to be the child of a supervillain. Yeah.
To me, it's either that or whoever pitched Artemis in the first place really loved that character in Infinity Inc. And then when they said, hey, we already have a character, we already have Arrowette, we already have Cissie King Jones, they said, oh, well, this is the cartoon. It doesn't have to be the same.
I don't know. It could be any possibility.
I don't know.
I like Arrowette better than Artemis. I do.
I do, too. And that's probably why I'm a little bit like, I wish she was a little more like the classic Arrowette.
And to all the Young Justice fans out there, I hope we're cool.
Yeah.
I hope we're cool. Are we cool? I'm cool with you guys. You cool with us? All right, great.
I just wish...
Hashtag Mercury yes. I believe
Mercury yes. I just wish they had left her in the green costume.
You know what the biggest travesty is? That Young Justice never showed Max Mercury. I think that's the bigger issue.
There's still time.
Yeah. Season 4.
Still time.
Season 4.
Yeah. Could come. How about we roll into the teaching tweet?
That sounds fine with me. Teaching tweet is a section of this podcast that we sometimes do because I don't really like it anymore, but Ashley does. So,
Well, we asked the listeners and they said to keep it in.
Did they?
So I'm the one doing what the listeners asked and you're the one bogarting their authority.
Oh, damn you, listeners. I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Oh, crap.
I think it was your idea to be like, do you guys even want this anymore? Jason doesn't like it, but I still do.
I don't like it anymore. Anyway, so Ashley is going to, in less than 140 characters, give you a tweet that sums up her lesson. I don't even know. See, this is part of the reason why I don't want to do it anymore. Anyways, you can find it at GHL Podcast on Twitter.
I wrote this all in caps, so I'm going to lean away from my microphone.
You better tweet it all in caps,
when I
too.
say it, I will.
Better
I copy them right out of my notes.
Can we add a hashtag Mercury yes to this?
No, we can add a GIF, though.
Okay.
I said, just call her Arrowette, you cowards! With an exclamation point.
Hashtag Mercury yes.
No, that can be a thread tweet. That can be
Let it be a reply.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now it's time for the honor roll.
Yes.
Very fun part of the podcast.
That's a new theme song, the honor roll, that you'll only hear in this episode. So if you go to Apple Podcasts, which is what Apple has renamed iTunes, you can leave us a 5-star review here in the U.S., and it helps bump us up in the search algorithm. And then we read your review on the show. By the way, if you are an international listener, specifically in places like Spain or Mexico or Colombia, I see some of you guys are in there and you're listening.
Colombia.
We can't see your reviews. So if you want to do a review, you want to get a shout out on the podcast, write your review on your Apple Podcast service, take a screenshot, email it to us at geekhistorylesson@gmail.com. We will read it on the air. I am looking forward to our first review from Mexico.
Please write them in English.
We can translate it.
Okay, that's fair. We can translate it, but we can't read them unless you're writing in French. We can't read.
Well, we will read it in English.
Yeah.
You can write it in whatever language you like.
Yeah. Okay.
We will only read it in English.
Because I'm not about to try to butcher another language.
Yeah. No.
So these three amazing people who wrote us 5-star reviews are Fear the Beard 513. Who says, my favorite history class I won't get a grade in. I have been an avid listener of GHL for the last 5 years, going back to the episode on Winter Soldier. That was an early one. I fell behind for a few months, but got caught up just in time to listen to the Geek history lesson on Professor Inman himself.
Oh.
This podcast and the corresponding Jawiin YouTube channel were among my first introductions into the comics world back in 2014. Alongside the crew of the Weekly Poll, GHL has vastly improved my knowledge since I am unable to buy comics for myself, and I am incredibly thankful for all the information passed on. I don't listen to every lesson, but the ones I do come to class for always make me smile, laugh, and learn, even if I don't always agree. Jason, Todd, and Damien don't entirely deserve their bad reps. My favorite episodes are episodes 17, 63, 77, 120, and 219.
Don't even know what those are.
Where they create their best X-Men, Avengers, Fantastic Four, Justice League, and Teen Titans team, respectively. Congratulations to them for making a wonderful show for 5 years, and I hope it only ends when the last geek character, construct, or whatever else they want to talk about has been reached. I think that's a great review.
I'm going to give it a B+ because he said he didn't listen to every episode.
You know what? I'm sure between now and then,
B+.
Fear the Beard 513 has gone back.
But it was a great review.
They are also joined by Creating CLW, who says 10 out of 10 would recommend. Listen to one episode before deciding to binge them all to procrastinate on life. They make my geek knowledge grow and make my day better, with a heart emoji. That's so funny and sweet. And rounding out our honor roll this week is Mac Lacey 37, who says Essential Geek Education. This podcast is extremely helpful in filling the gaps in your geek knowledge, as well as turning you on to properties you may not have heard or watched otherwise. The hosts are ever knowledgeable and engaging, and I hope they keep it up for a long while to come.
We probably will.
So, Fear the Beard 513, Creating CLW, and Mac Lacey 37, welcome to the Honor Roll. Welcome to the Teacher's Lounge. Professor Jason will let you know what you can touch and what you can't touch.
Yes, inside the Teacher's Lounge, you can touch everything but the green yarn cactus in the corner. That belongs to Adjutant Professor Brago.
Adjutant? I think you mean adjunct.
No, Adjutant.
What does Professor Brago teach?
Scritches.
So
everybody out there, if you want to give your 5-star review on the podcast, go to iTunes or Apple Podcasts and leave us
whatever it's called
now. Leave us a review. Don't forget, you can listen and download to this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. We're on Spotify and Stitcher, and lots of other places that podcasts go into your ear holes. If you want to suggest a lesson like Max Mercury, Ashley, on what 2 things can they do that?
Well, you can do that on Twitter and Instagram. Nope.
We don't have an Instagram.
On Facebook and Twitter, facebook.com/Geek History Lesson, or on Twitter at GHL Podcast. Sorry, I was trying to scroll to see the TAs.
Yeah, and thanks again to our TAs who suggested Arrowette. Who are they?
So if you request an episode, you can be like these cool people: Nicholas J. Adams, Garib Hunter, and at Nikki Clough _books. Thank you so much for requesting Arrowette. I had a blast doing this episode and doing the research.
And don't forget to follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Jawiin, Jawiin. Don't forget to follow Ashley on Twitter and Instagram at Ashley V. Robinson. Yes, we have the same usernames on both because we're easy like that. And now, what are the final section of the podcast? Hashtag stick around, where we make sure you stuck around through the plugs. Yeah, we know. We can tell. Yeah. Hey, Jim. Yeah, Jim. Listening to the podcast right now, Jim, I saw you about ready to press stop. I saw it. You better stay on, Jim. That's damn right. I'm looking forward to all the tweets and emails from about the 100 of different Jims that listen to the show.
I know we have a handful of them.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Hashtag stick around, Ashley. What's going on? What's up? What's what?
Jason.
Uh-huh.
In the modern contemporary at the time of this recording, DC Comics continuity.
Sure.
Is there room for Arrowette in the Green Arrow family? Or do you think she needs to stay bye-bye?
There is not room for her.
I know, I'm so sorry.
Right now. And do you want to know why?
Tell me why. Because
now, in the New 52, Jeff Lemire introduced another
girl.
Female, yes. Young female archer, Amiko, Queen, who is now Oliver's half-sister. So now Mia doesn't even exist anymore. She is out of continuity. So now she's out of continuity. Arrowette's out of continuity. It's almost as bad as Robin's. Like, we're now at the third young female archer who can hang out with Oliver. And the weird thing is I think Amiko is going to stick around because Amiko is blood related to Oliver.
Now, let me ask you one last question. First answer, right off the top of your head. Are we going to see a version of Arrowette in Green Arrow and Black Canaries or whatever that show's called?
Green Arrow and the Black Canaries?
Yeah.
No.
Star City 2049.
No.
I didn't think so either, but I was just wondering.
I have a prediction you're not going to like.
Okay.
We will never see Arrowette in live action.
I think you are probably right. I can still be...
Maybe 100 years down the line once they've exhausted every character, or as a sort of Easter egg in some Green Arrow movie. Like if they finally make the Green Arrow movie, like say he goes into a cafe, meets a woman, and she's like, oh, my name is Cissie, whatever her name is.
King Jones, or he watches her like at the Olympics or something like that.
Yeah, that's going to be it. So, and that's sad because I like this character.
Yeah, she's a great character. So that's it. That's your whole lesson on Arrowette.
I think you hit the bullseye.
Thank you.
About 3 times. You hit it the first time, then your second arrow split the one in the middle like Robin Hood, and then you hit a third one, and that one like sort of like winded around, and we thought it was gonna like not hit right, but then we didn't know that it was actually a boomerang arrow, and that one split the other one too.
Ooh, nice. Good for me.
So well done, Ashley. Thank you so much for listening to Geek History Lesson. I am Jason. Can't remember Sissie's full name, Inman.
I am Ashley Victoria Robinson.
And Professor Ashley, will you please close out this podcast? Maybe zip up the quiver, if you will.
You don't zip up a quiver. Class is now dismissed.
#Mercury, yes.